I think Casey referenced, that there was the idea that they were gene splicing. Either there were animals at the time that essentially looked more human, or they actually were working on genetic splicing.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
like mammalians or things like this, right? Where they actually
Yeah.
and they were
And
doing that.
it's
Right. That's where the Minotaur
absolutely.
visions of these hybrids came from.
Yes, in fact, it's weird that that's a huge part of this this story. In fact, I think he talks about that more than the technology, you know, of Atlantis in terms of the crystal and the laser and stuff like that. Is, you know, in his version, he calls them automatons, which again is interesting because, I mean, think about when he's giving these readings, Sean, you know, in the 30s. Like, there's no real knowledge probably outside of, you know, young Joseph Mengele of the concept of cloning, and even he, I mean, this is in the 30s, and some of these readings I think go back to 1927, 28. So he says, you know, automatons, which you can interpret perhaps as clones, and then he also calls them things, or the things with the appendages, and he doesn't really go into much detail, but in other readings, you're absolutely right. And now he says it's not just the result of you know, sinister, dark experiments, although those do exist, and other channelers like Barbara Hand Clow goes into great detail about all that, and Phyllis Schlemmer as well, like that was going on. But for Casey, he says that a lot of these people were remnants of the original, you know, thought forms coming to Earth, who, you know, in his case, it goes back 10.5 million years, actually, is the first time semi-materialistic kind of translucent beings came to Earth, he claims. And that's a very difficult time period that I just kind of mention and say, like, you use your imagination. I'm not going to tell you exactly what was going down, because it's a very weird reading, and I make no presumption on how you could even, you know, divine what that means. But as he gets closer to that, you know, 50,000 between there and 200,000 time period, he says there were still these, you know, remnant mixtures of when, like, the spirit or the consciousness of people came and mixed in the pre-existing plants and animals, you know. And I wonder if, you know, maybe that's like the tree folk where, you know, Tolkien got that from, because Casey later says when these beings were, you know, mixing with the peoples of Atlantis in its various, you know, iterations, basically the whole society, there was this huge battle between these factions of, like, are these human? Can we use them as sex slaves? Can we use them in the fields? They don't really have souls. They don't. And it was this, like, really weird thing that he just kept going. I kept seeing it over and over. And then eventually he says that they take these things, literally these things in this reading, with them to Egypt as they're fleeing Atlantis before the final destruction around 10,500 BC. And that becomes a problem there. And then they also run into other mutants, like bird people that have feathers on their legs, but they look kind of human. And he says that they even build a surgical rehabilitation facility, 2 of them, to remove the animal appendages and acculturate these people into the form of what we would consider today a modern a human, you know. And it's just, it's in one of the weirdest parts. I even think I say in the book, like, that chapter is worth the price of the book alone, because I think I actually, like, went a little bit crazy on that chapter, because I found examples today, you know, of where, for example, Casey says in a woman asks him, you know, rightfully so, in I think 1930 or something, okay, I believe you, Mr. Casey, you know, but can you literally explain how they turned a minotaur or a centaur into, you know, a more modern human? And he says, by the operative measures. And she says, can you be more specific? And he's in a hypnagogic trance. So he, you know, when you push him too far, his source or whatever pushes back, and he says, what you would call surgery today. Like, what do you want me to tell you?